ज्ञानतिमिरण्डस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं साद्वधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदं सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Thank you again for inviting me to speak for your group in ISKCON Scarborough, Ontario, Canada. Well, today also here in Vrindavan, in Uchagaon, the festival for the glorification of Lalita Devi happens like 2 days or 1 day before Radhastami, the holy appearance day of Srimati Radharani. And we discussed this morning about Lalita Devi. We just want to give you some introduction also, who's Lalita Sakhi, because she is the most closest. She's the closest associate, assistant of Srimati Radharani before we can speak on Radharani or describe who is Srimati Radharani. Lalita Devi, she's also called Anuradha because she's always with Radharani. It's like almost as like a shadow. Always like a shadow, you cannot have the shadow be separated from you. And Lalita Devi she's like elder, 27 days older. She's eternally 14-year-old, 8 months and 27 days older. That means 27 days older than Srimati Radharani. And according to the Skanda Purana, just to, of course, Gopis means the cowherd maidens, cowherd girlfriends of Lord Krishna. According to the Skanda Purana, there are 3 billion gopis. And the foremost is Srimati Radharani. And along later on, of course, we knew that there is another gopi who is also dear to Lord Krishna, Chandravali. Then there are the 8 Sakhis, both 2 personalities, they have their own groups. One is right wing and one is left wing. Right wing means submissive to the dictations or orders. They're just like there to, they don't oppose Lord Krishna. And the left wing, they are the ones who are like opposed, or they're not submissive. And Lalita Sakhi, she is the leader of the assistants of Radharani. And Lalita also sometimes she chastise and get angry and teach and give lessons to both Radha and Krishna. So she's like a protector or a guardian of Radharani. So that sometimes if Krishna will come late for their meeting, then she will reprimand even Lord Krishna, saying that you're not allowed to enter my mistress' garden. So yes, somehow or other, Radharani, who is the topmost of the gopis, she, by her name alone, meaning she who gives the highest pleasure to Lord Krishna. Because she is the personification of Haladini Shakti, the pleasure-giving potency. This Parasya Shaktir Suyate Ba Parasya Shakti Subhabiki Bala Kriya Gana Bala Kriya Cha. That there are unlimited energies of the Supreme Lord, and is divided into three. Antaranga Shakti, or the internal potency, Bahiranga Shakti, the material energy, the external energy, and the Tatastha Shakti. So Srimati Radharani is not an ordinary girl. She's not an ordinary girl in the material world. She is a direct also expansion of the Supreme Lord. In that energy, meaning that you cannot separate the energy from the energetic, from Shakti to Shaktiman. Or Prabhupada gave an example, it's like you cannot separate the sun rays to the sun planet. Now, whenever you see the sun rays, that means the sun planet is there. Which means also, there is no Radharani, there is no Krishna. Where there is no Krishna, there is also no Radharani. There is no Vrindavan, there is no Radha Krishna. These are all interconnected. So, Srimati Radharani, her love and affection towards the Supreme Lord is the highest of them all. She is the one who gives the highest pleasure, and she is the one who is the best servitor. And more, not just the best servitor, she is the eternal consort of Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna's name is Madan Mohan. One of his names is Madan Mohan, meaning one who enchants Cupid. But Radharani's name is Madan Mohan Mohini. She is the one who enchants the enchanter of Cupid, Madan Mohan Mohini. Which means somehow the love of the devotees is greater. We may say that the love of the devotee is greater than Lord Krishna, because in the love of the devotee towards the Lord Krishna makes Lord Krishna subordinate. So that to intensify the loving relationship and please his devotee, Lord Krishna seemingly like in a position, even though he's a Supreme Lord, but he put himself in a position whereby the devotees can tell him what to do or command him. Just like in the pastimes of binding, Damodar Leela, binding of the rope to Lord Krishna by Mother Yasoda. seemingly that Krishna became afraid and he is crying, that he'll be scolded by Mother Yasoda. So similarly, the love of Srimati Radharani is so great that Krishna becomes seemingly subordinate to enhance the loving relationship between Radha and Krishna. I was listening to a class the other day. Srila Prabhupada says, not possible to understand Radharani by mundane people, those who are engrossed in the attraction or covered up by the modes of material nature. It is not able to be understood. But first, Prabhupada says that we should understand Lord Krishna first. It's not possible to understand the gopis without understanding Lord Krishna. So this is very, very difficult because, of course, to understand Lord Krishna, we have to understand from his bona fide representatives, from the spiritual master. And Radharani, she has 25 qualities? 25 qualities that makes her control Krishna. Krishna has unlimited qualities also, but 64 main qualities that makes him Swayam Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, pure, Purna Bhagavan, as it says in the Bhagavatam, Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. However, Radharani's qualities, these 25 main qualities, she can control Krishna. And this is how Radharani is so dear to Lord Krishna, because that is the mystery here. The Radharani is the principal head of all such goddesses of fortune also. It's like in the Vaikuntha planets, the goddesses of fortune, they are also extension or expansions of Srimati Radharani, eternal consorts of the quadruple hand, four-handed form of Lord Krishna in the Vaikuntha planets. So her counterpart, being the counterpart of Lord Krishna, she's the one who gives pleasure. And this is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago. Lord Krishna himself is not able to understand the love of Radharani towards himself, towards Lord Krishna. What is it that makes Radharani, or what is it that makes him also attracted to Radharani? So he wanted to taste this, and that's why he came. Sri Krishna, Radha Krishna, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. That Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He is all and the first expansion also for the giving pleasure, potency, is Radharani. And then the two personalities, Radha and Krishna, became one personality as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Her mood is that of, that left wing is that sulky, well again, sulky, insubordinate. And somehow, again, in the Panchatattva, Gadadhar also is none other than Radharani. He's an expansion of Radharani, Gadadhar. And somehow, again, to assist the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his pastimes. Sarup Damodar is Lalita. Also, again, none different than because Lalita is there. So whenever Lalita says the Acharyas, whenever there's Lalita, Radharani is there also. So Gadadhar is a combined form also of Radharani, in the mood of Radharani and Lalita. Yes. So, it says here, in the third canto, that the Goswamis, it is explained by the Goswamis that Radharani is the manifestation of the pleasure, potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada's purport says, that woman is Radharani. It is explained by the Goswamis that yes, Radharani is manifestation of the pleasure, potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when the Supreme Lord wants to derive transcendental pleasure, He has to create a woman from His internal potency. Thus, the tendency to be attracted by womanly beauty is natural because it exists in the spiritual world. In the material world, it is reflected pervertedly, and therefore there are so many inebriaties. As Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that real love can be only found in the transcendental platform. In the material world, that love is not present. If not, the closest way how love is being expressed is that love of the mother towards the child. So this love between Radha and Krishna cannot be understood if our senses are completely contaminated. We'll not be able to understand, because we may think that because the love of the gopis is also called lust. But it's not the same lust as the sexual attraction in the mundane aspect, or in the mundane term. The lust in the material world is that I want to just enjoy. But the love, because of the eagerness of the gopis to fulfill the happiness of Lord Krishna, they were so eager, not for their own benefit, but for the benefit or the pleasure of Radha and Krishna, especially. Then the gopis' love towards Radha and Krishna is so intense that it is also called lust, but that is transcendental lust. So what to say of Radharani also? She is the one who gives the highest pleasure to Lord Krishna. And it is said that our service towards the Supreme Lord, whatever activities we perform to serve the Supreme Lord, is only by the mercy of Radharani, by blessings of Srimati Radharani. This cannot happen without her mercy or without her blessings. And therefore, the attitude of Srimati Radharani, the most prominent, is that she is always thinking of Krishna 24 hours. 24 hours. That says here that even though many devotees always think of Krishna, none can surpass the gopis, among whom Radharani is the leader in thinking of Krishna. Radharani's Krishna consciousness surpasses that all other devotees. Lord Chaitanya accepts the position of Srimati Radharani to understand Krishna. Therefore, he was always thinking of Krishna in the same way of Radharani. By thinking of Lord Krishna, he always overlapped Krishna. Now, I am not able to understand that from the purport of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, text 81. He always overlapped Krishna. By thinking of Lord Krishna, he always overlapped Krishna. It's beyond. I don't know what was the meaning of that, how Prabhupada, maybe Dravida Prabhu can explain it to us. What does that mean? So this is the attitude of Radharani, which means the attitude also of Lord Krishna. Oh, rather, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It says here, from the translation and purport of Adilila, chapter 4, text 106, the heart of Lord Chaitanya is the image of Shri Radhika's emotions. Thus, feeling of pleasure and pain arise constantly herein. Lord Chaitanya's heart was full of the feelings of Srimati Radharani, and his appearance resembled hers. Yes, molten gold, like Gauranga, is like molten gold. Sarup Damodar has explained his attitude as Radha Baba Murti, the attitude of Radharani. One who engages in sense gratification on the material platform can hardly understand Radha Baba. But one who is freed from the demands of sense gratification can understand it. So this is the process before we can really fully relish the pastimes of the Supreme Lord along with the gopis, specifically with Srimati Radharani. We have to purify our senses first. Follow the four regulative principles, have strong sadhana, then somehow by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra also purely without any offenses, then somehow we can come to a spontaneous love towards the Supreme Lord. It's not possible to understand or come to the platform of relishing the Supreme Lord's pastimes if our senses is still contaminated. And the process is very simple. By simply chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we can purify our heart, can be cleansed, our senses becomes purified, and then ultimately we'll be able to understand who we are, eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. And ultimately we'll be able to also understand our relationship with the Supreme Lord by serving Him with love and devotion. So the process is very simple. As Prabhupada says, it is easy, simple for the simple-minded, but it is very difficult for the crooked-minded. Not so easy in that way. Which means that we have to work hard. We have to work hard and we have to increase our faith towards the process, and eventually by the mercy of Guru, he will bless us, and ultimately we'll get the mercy from the Supreme Lord, and one day hopefully we'll be able to understand who is Radharani, who are the gopis, who are the Brajabasis, what is Goloka Vrindavan, all the intricate mystery that covers us for understanding Lord Krishna and his associates will be revealed someday. We just have to pray for the mercy, especially of Radharani, to bestow her mercy upon us. That's why we chant every day, O energy of the Lord, Srimati Radharani, please engage me in your service. This is how hope against hope, as Srila Rupa Goswami, that one day we will attain love of God. By the mercy of the representatives of Srimati Radharani also, which means the Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayur Dasa 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 Anudas, by the mercy of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Gopis, headed by Srimati Radharani. So somehow we are in this disciplic succession, Guru Parampara, because in India, not many can really understand who is Radharani. They don't have clue, or they just mistakenly think that Radharani is an ordinary girl, or just girl who is also elevated, but they don't really know who is Radharani and what to say of Lord Krishna. So we're very fortunate somehow we are in this parampara, because in our parampara, the associates of Lord Chaitanya, most of them also coming from the spiritual world, they are eternal associates of the Supreme Lord. And the 6 Goswamis, or the main Goswamis, associates of the Lord, they are Manjaris. Manjaris means they're all assistants of the main Sakis or girlfriends. They're like 12 or 13 years old. And their main function also is just to assist the Sakis. They don't have, in their mind, they don't have any intentions to be with Krishna, but their main intentions is to serve the Sakis so that they'll make arrangements for Radha and Krishna to be united and enjoy their pastimes. So we should see ourselves as actually, or we should see everyone as greater than us. And this is the mood of the gopis, or the manjaris, or the brajavasis, to just have one get closer to Lord Krishna. We should see it in this way, that the more we perform our bhakti and help others in performing bhakti, then we become closer and dear to Krishna as well. So I will stop here now. I believe I have my 30 minutes. It's already 9 o'clock here. And I'm sure you'll learn more from Dravida Prabhu. If you have any questions or any comments, then please do so.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Sincere gratitude to you for speaking to us from the Holy Dham of Vrindavan. During this COVID times, we are not able to travel, but we are connected to the Holy Dham through you, Maharaj, and especially one day before Radhastami. So we're very grateful for that.
Yes, somehow we are in Braj, the holiest of all the holy places in the universe, where the Supreme Lord, along with his associates, perform their lila. Somehow, you are also in Braj. Braj means also in your heart, is in your heart. If you're always thinking of Krishna, that means that is Vrindavan, wherever the devotees are, where they also congregate and be immersed from hearing and chanting the holy name, fame, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So Scarborough also is in Vrindavan if you are in that mood. It's just like Krishna is in your heart. So that is Vrindavan also, in your heart. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj. I would like to just ask if any devotees would like to ask you any question. One question we can take if it's okay with you, Maharaj.
Fine with me.
So we'll just wait. If any devotees got any question, you can either raise your hand through Zoom, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question to Maharaj. We'll just wait for a few seconds. And also, we would like to take this opportunity to ask if Dravida Prabhu has got anything to add, any reflections.
You can correct me. Dravida Prabhu is a very senior Prabhupada's disciple.
I wouldn't dream of correcting you, Maharaj. But one thing that came to mind when you were speaking about that, I remember, I think it was Tripurari Boo at that time. He was doing a book distribution, and he was reading how in the Chaitanya Charitamrita at the very end, you have Lord Chaitanya giving a whole purport on the last verse of the Shikshastika. And Radharani is saying, oh, if somebody Krishna wants to be with some other gopi, I'm glad to take that gopi's hand and bring him to Krishna.
Right.
And Tripurari approached Prabhupada and he asked if, well, this sounds like what we do on Sankirtan, where we're trying to give people books and bring them closer to Krishna. Is that the mood we should be in? And Prabhupada said, yes, that Sankirtan is directly this mood of trying to bring others closer to Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. And so I was thinking of that as you were describing Lalita and the other gopis and the way they're always eager to bring Radharani to Krishna, and that's their highest bliss. Yeah. So that same mood is there in all preaching, really.
Yeah, all the mood of the gopis, actually, even Lalita being that, like, commanding and sulky and very sometimes angry, ultimately is for the benefit of Radha and Krishna. It's like that anger is not really like the same anger in the material world. That anger is only to please, to give pleasure for the. So yes, our mood should be like that of the gopis, that we, as much as possible, bring them closer to the lotus feet of the divine couple. Right. And then in this way, you'll get so much bhakti points that.
Krishna says in the Gita. Krishna says in the Gita, "There's no one more dear to me than those who are preaching this message." So this is how we can become successful. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I may take my leave.
Yes,
because the whole day, since 2:00 in the morning, I was up here, and tomorrow is another day. So thank you very much for having your association. Dravida Prabhu, please come to Vrindavan as soon as
I can.
It is over.
Well, let me share with you one prayer before you go, Maharaj. I'm sure
yes,
you know.
Sir. Yes.
Vilap Kusumanjali number 8.
Okay.
Devi Dukka Kulasagaro Dare Duyamanam Apidurgatam Janam. Tanki Papa Balanauki Yabitam Prapaya Sapadapankajalayam. Oh Goddess Srimati Radharani, I'm drowning in an ocean of misery. Please place me on the powerful boat of your mercy and take me to the safe and wonderful refuge of your lotus feet.
Nectar.
I've been trying to teach this prayer to the devotees here, so that tomorrow that we can all chant it, like that. No.
So Maharaj, so Prabhu, for the benefit of all the devotees, what's the reference to this verse, Prabhu?
This is Raghunath Das Goswami, Vilap Kusumanjali, text 8. I'll send it to you, Ananda. You can send it around.
Sure. That'll be great, Maharaj. What a wonderful verse. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank
you so much.
Happy Radhastami in advance. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Good night from Vrindavan.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Dravid Prabhu, for waiting in the background as well. So, because we wanted Prabhu to join a little bit earlier because Maharaj had some difficulties. But thank you so much, Prabhu. And for all the devotees, we promised a double header. You've heard double header in sports. Today is a double header. We just heard His Holiness Bhakti Anugraha Janardana Swami speak from Vrindavan, India. And we have our own Dravid Prabhu, who's going to speak to us from San Diego. Over to you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So what I'd like to do is, hold on a second here. Okay. All right. So first of all, we'll offer our obeisances. Vancha kalpadribhischa kripa sindhu behevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And then I'll do as Maharaj did and offer pranams to the Parampara. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Supadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapata Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Bhadijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanda Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanshakal Patarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Behevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sarigo Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the plan is that we're going to do some exploration of the Dasha Mula, the 10 roots of the philosophy, and then we should have time at the end. I can share with you the Radhikashtaka, from the Song of the Sari from the Govinda Lilamrita. And then I was hoping we could do the Nandananashka too. We'll see if we have time for all that. So I want to share my screen. I've got all these PowerPoints all loaded up here. So this is one of them, but I have some others here. Let's see. Yes. All right, just let me. Sorry about this. Hare Krishna. Oh, here we go. All right, that's the Radhikashtaka. And that's the Dashamula. Okay, I'm going to this. And let's see. Yes. So can everyone see that?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, very good. So that's a little background on the Dashamula. This was gleaned, I think will become clear, but I'll just mention that in ahead of time. Many of you are familiar with the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Sanatana Goswami in the Madhya Lila beginning chapter 20. There are several chapters of teachings there. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his study of this, he gleaned these 10 basic points of philosophy that Lord Chaitanya dealt with in his teachings. And so this also suffices as the outline or the format for the presentation of Jaiva Dharma, which is a very extensive book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur covering the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism in depth in the form of a novel. So I'm just going to begin, and this is first a little quote from Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, his famous quote. Gaudiya Vaishnava theology, the perfect balance of head and heart. And that's what kind of illustrates the Dashamula and our whole philosophy. Religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. And just before going forward and into the next slide, I experienced this very much when I was growing up. When I was raised as an atheist, and we always thought religion was the opiate of the people, is kind of this communist idea. And it didn't seem to be based on science, on logical thought and all these things. It all seemed to be emotion and speculation. So I got involved with philosophy, Western philosophy, which was mostly atheistic and logical and so forth. But it had no, it was just mental speculation. As many of you familiar with this verse from the Mahabharata, Tarko Pratishta Shruti Vibinna Nasa Vrishirya Samatam Nabindam. So this verse describes how real Dharma is located in the heart of the pure devotees and is understood by their words and by their activities. And logic, which is very prominent in Western philosophy, It's just one logician is always fighting with another, and you can never come to a conclusion. And you cannot really be a philosopher unless you differ from another philosopher. So there's constant competition, and it's very prominent in Western philosophy. One is refuting the next one, and then establishing a school like that. So this was, I experienced this even before learning about Krishna consciousness. And when I read this, it all made complete sense. That as all of you are familiar, our religion, our Gaudiya Vaishnavism is filled with so much philosophy as a foundation for our faith, and the practice of direct worship of Krishna is the essence of the whole idea, is to reestablish our loving relationship with Krishna. So it's the perfect balance of head and heart, I call it. So now on we go to the 10 roots. Now, what about this thing at the top here? Can we minimize that or somehow? Or move it maybe? All right, I'm moving it on my screen anyway, to the side. I'll do the best I can. All right, so Dashamula is the 10 roots of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, gleaned by Bhakti Anugraha Janardana from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, as I explained. So I'll chant this verse. This is it. It's a long verse, and all of the 10 points are located here. And at the end it says, Upadishiti Hariya Gaura Chandra Bhajetam, the Supreme Personality of Guided Gaura Chandra, Lord Chaitanya, he instructed these 10 points of philosophy, and it is he I worship. This is Bhakti Anugraha verse. Amnaya prahatatvam ahadamiha padamang sarva shaktim risabdim tad binang sang sajivan prakatika balitang tad muktang sabhavat Veda Veda Prakasham Sakalam Apahare Sadhanam Shuddha Bhaktim Sadhyam Tad Pritamevet Padishijit Harir Goda Chandro Bhajetam. So this verse appears in a book called that it was one of the books that Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent to McGill University in Montreal, Canada, in 1896. Prabhupada, he noted that this was the year of his birth, and he took that was significant for him, and he was very happy when I think Brahmananda found a copy of it in the McGill University and gave it to him. So the first point is that the absolute truth can be known only through the Vedic literature, and it also means how do we get the Vedic literature? The absolute can only be known through the Vedic literature as given through the authorized parampara, because we know from reading Srila Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita, the introduction, that he was very adamant to present the Bhagavad Gita as it is, because so many others had translated into English and misinterpreted, and it was not. He said this is the greatest sin one can perform against the society, is to misrepresent bona fide Shastra. So received through the authorized parampara, as we have got it, this is the only way to know the absolute truth. And I'll read the 10 and then we'll go one by one. Krishna is the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 3, Krishna possesses infinite and varied potencies. 4, Krishna is the ocean of rasa, relishable loving exchanges with his devotees. Every soul is Krishna's a minute part and parcel, a separated part. 6, certain souls are swallowed up by Krishna's illusory external energy. 7, certain souls are released from the grasp of Krishna's illusory external energy. All spiritual and material phenomena are simultaneously one with and different from Krishna. This is the famous Achincha Veda Veda Tattva. 9, pure devotional service to Krishna is the only means of attaining the goal of life. And 10, prema, pure love of Krishna, is alone the goal of life. So we'll now study these one by one, and hopefully this will work. Okay, now I'm missing the top of this, so I'm just going to drag this down a little bit so we can see it. Amnaya Prahatatvam, this is the first part of it. Quote, the Vedic literature received in the parampara of realized souls alone can give us real knowledge of the absolute truth. So we can't understand anything transcendental because of these four defects: imperfect senses, tendency to make mistakes, tendency to become illusioned, and tendency to cheat. Now, before we go on, I like to present them in this order, although the original verse is a little different, because this is the order that kind of we experience them. And the first thing is our senses are imperfect. No one can deny that. Our sight, our hearing, everything is very limited. And therefore, we make mistakes. Probably would give you the example of a child sees the sun or the moon and he thinks it's as big as a quarter, when we know that it's not. The biggest mistake we make is identifying ourselves with this body. It's practically universal. And when we keep making the mistake consistently, this becomes an illusion. There's certainly the illusion that we are material bodies is most prominent. And then they teach it. And this is the tendency to cheat. I'm sorry, I misspelled tendency there. So these four defects completely block us from getting any absolute truth or transcendental knowledge, because we're so limited and illusion, make mistakes. Therefore, we need a superhuman source of knowledge called aparusheya. That source of knowledge is the Vedic literature, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, the ripened fruit of all the Vedas. And realized souls who strictly follow the regulations of the Vedic literature and have realized knowledge. This is Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So this brings to mind the definition of Acharya. Without the Acharyas, we're hopeless. We're simply in the wilderness, unable to get any true knowledge and simply suffering birth after birth. So the Acharya is defined, Srila Prabhupada gives us these three qualifications. One who knows the Shastra very, very thoroughly, who follows the tenets of the Shastra, and who takes the trouble to teach or preach these for others' benefit. And this is, we were so fortunate to have the blessings of the founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada of the ISKCON Society. And he's also, by his potency, made other Acharyas. So this is how we have access to these truths. All right, I'm seeing how this is going to work. Yes. So each of these points, now, by the way, this Dashamula verse appeared in this book. I think I mentioned this, but the Gauranga Lila Smarana Mangala Stotra. These were one of the books that he sent. He also called Lord Chaitanya's Life and Precepts. So these are the precepts, these 10 points in the philosophy. And within that Gauranga Lila Smarana Mangala Stotra, which is where I first encountered it, I memorized it then. And then I saw that he gave one verse explaining each one of the points. It's a very nice way of studying and getting an overview of the entire philosophy of the movement. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a summary explanation. The self-evident Vedas, which have been received in the Sampradaya through the Guru Parampara by recipients of Sri Hari's mercy, such as Brahmaji, are known as Amnaya Vakya. The 9 Pramayatras are established by these Amnaya Vakyas. So the first one is the way in which we understand. So the 9 others are the essence of the philosophy. They're established by these Amnaya Vakyas with the help of other sources of evidence that follow the guidance of these scriptures, such as evidence obtained by direct sense perception. Reasoning based only on logic is always ineffectual in the matter of evaluating inconceivable subject matters, since logic and argument have no access to the realm of the inconceivable. Now, this comes up at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, in the 2nd chapter, the first canto. Many of you are familiar with these verses, beginning with Savai Pangsang Parodharma, where the sages of Naimisharanya, they asked Shonaka Rishi to explain what is that dharma by which the soul can be fully satisfied. And so this first verse, probably quoted quite often, describes that. Savai Pangsang Parodharma yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahoityak pratiyata yayatma suprasiditi. That is the supreme dharma, which generates pure devotion unto adhokshaja. Such devotional service has to be uninterrupted and unmotivated in order to fully satisfy the self. Well, that word adhokshaja is significant, that name adhokshaja. is made of three elements, Ada, Aksha, and Ja. Aksha is the eyes, and it stands in for all the material senses. And that knowledge which is born or generated from the material senses, this is material knowledge. And this is the scientific method we observe with our senses, or our amplified senses like telescopes and microscopes, the world. And we come up with a hypothesis, we test it, and then if it seems to tell us something about the material world, we call it a theory, and it becomes part of the canon of science. And this is a way to progress. But the first word of this name, Adha, means down. So it means that all of the knowledge that was generated in this way is below, or is unable to reach up to the transcendent Lord. The very word transcendent means, or transcendental, means beyond the range of the material mind and senses. So that's, therefore, we need someone who's on that platform, who has experienced and realized the gyan of the transcendent Lord and all its expansions and everything, in order to present it to us. The medium, the bridge between the transcendent world and this world is the realized Acharyas presenting the Shastra as it is. So that's the first point, very important. So what is the first point now? Hadamiha Padamam. Who is God? Who is that source of everything spoken in the Vedanta Sutra that we should be inquisitive about? Tato Brahma Jigyasa. What is that Brahma that they wanted us to inquire? Janmad Yasya Yataha, the source of everything, that which is the source of all material and spiritual worlds. So that the answer to that question is right here. Hadamiha Padamam. Krishna is that source of everything. And also, of course, confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, Aham Evasameva Agre. So the answer is, Lord Hari, or Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Having accepted the Bhagavatam as the supreme pramana, or evidence of transcendental truth, we must accept the Bhagavatam's statement concerning the identity of the supreme and original source of all. Ete chang sakala pungsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.328. Many of you are familiar with this verse, or half a verse. It comes at the end of a listing of the Leela avatars and other avatars. And near the end of the whole list, it gives this verse. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. So this phrase, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, itself is said to be by Jiva Goswami the Paribhas Sutra of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the essential foundation of everything that's else that follows. That Krishna is God. He is the absolute truth, the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything is follows from there. So that's the first point. And then we want to know, well, what about him? Well, first we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur's summary. There's some other things here that I added. In the Bhagavad Gita 1.10.8, Krishna confirms his status as the absolute truth. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Mattak sarvam pravartate. And I mentioned, of course, the first of the Chatra Shloki Bhagavatam, Aham evasameva gre nanyan yat sarasatpadam tatpaschara yaham yehitarar yobhishasheta sosviham, that before there was anything material manifestation, I existed. After the whole manifestation comes out, it is only I who exist because it's all my energy. And when I eventually wind it up and there's no material manifestation left, I still exist. So that's the Bhagavatam's version of this statement. Same thing as Krishna gives here. This is the very definition of the Supreme Brahman given in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmad Yasya Yataha, as I mentioned. Bhaktivinoda Thakur now gives a summary explanation of the second point. Lord Hari, the Supreme Being, is one without a second. Brahma, Shiva, and Indra offer respectful obeisances to him. His bodily effulgence is the impersonal Brahman effulgence, which is free from any material contamination. And the all-pervading Supersoul is his partial manifestation. He is the father of the universe and the transcendental lover of Srimati Radharani. His purely spiritual form has the luster of a fresh rain cloud. So these are some of the essential qualifications or characteristics of the Lord. And so then we learned some more details about Hari or Krishna. And this next one is number 3 of the 10 is Sarva Shakti. The Lord possesses all varieties of inconceivable energies. Prabhupada would always quote this, Parasa Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate. Remember that line from a verse from the Upanishads. He's full of all varieties of energy. So Krishna possesses 3 categories of energy, and of course there's many sub headings under each one. Internal energy, marginal energy, and external energy. Internal energy has 3 divisions: Sandhini, existent; Samvit, knowledge; and Ladini, bliss. I think we go on to this. And then the marginal energy comprises the living entities of jiva souls. So we're always marginal, even in the spiritual world. Prabhupada, Jayadvaita Swami asked Rai Rama to write Prabhupada a letter asking that question, and Prabhupada said yes. In any condition, the jiva is always in the marginal position. Lord Chaitanya states in those very instructions to Sanatan that I described were the source of this Dashamula. This famous line that you may not know the second one so impermanently. Jivera Swarapur Krishnera Nitya Das, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti, Veda Ved Prakash. So you can see that this one verse has several of the points in it. So the living entity is the sarup of the actual nature and the form of the original form of every living entity is to be an eternal servant of Krishna. The living entities are tatasta shakti of Krishna. So the tata is the margin. So we're eternally, this is our sarup, to be is Krishna's marginal energy, which means we can stay within the internal energy, but we have a freedom to also turn our backs on Krishna and become absorbed in the external energy and become conditioned, and that's our situation in the material world. So just like the tata on the ocean, I'm 2 blocks from the ocean here, and many of you, of course, you've all seen how the ocean comes in and then it goes out, and there's a certain part of the beach that's covered and uncovered, covered and uncovered, and that's compared to the living entity. Now we're in the covered state, trying to become uncovered. The external energy, the external energy has 8 divisions: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. By means of these internal, marginal, and external energies, wielded personally and through his plenary expansions, Sri Krishna infallibly executes his will both in the spiritual and material worlds. And this is the last line of that verse that I quoted, Vividhaiva Shruyate, Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate, Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. The Swabhavaki means there is internal nature, and it's knowledge and strength and will. In this way, everything is going on both in the spiritual and material world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a summary explanation of this 3rd point. All glories to the Supreme Person, Lord Hari, who eternally remains situated in his own majesty. Free from any material transformation or defect, he's non-different from his transcendental potencies. He is the controller of various energies divided into 3 groups: the superior transcendental potency, the living entities, and the inanimate material nature. So obviously, so much more could be said on this subject, and we'll find so many details in the Bhagavatam 3rd canto, the workings of the material energy, and Kapila Dev's teaching, so many places. This subject is explored. And number 4, Krishna is also Rasabdim, this Hari that is describing just Hari in these first 3 points, 3 or 4 points. Hari or Krishna is the supreme. He's full of all these different energies, and he's an ocean of rasa. Krishna is an ocean of rasas, the mellows of loving exchanges with his devotees. Taittiriya Upanishad 271 declares, Raso Vaisa, Rasam Yevayam Ladvanandi Bhavati. Krishna himself is rasa, the taste or mellow of a particular relationship. And certainly one who achieves this rasa becomes anandi, filled with bliss. Lord Krishna is by nature full of ananda, anandamaya vyasat, so he's the original anandi. And this is our nature also, which we've lost. We're trying to enjoy this happiness within the material world. But once we regain our intimate relation with Krishna in a specific rasa, then we'll again become true Anandis, filled with bliss and no unhappiness at all. Because Krishna is all attractive, full in all six opulences, beauty, strength, knowledge, fame, wealth, and dispassion, he can reciprocate perfectly with any living entity who surrenders to him and directs his loving devotion toward him. Akala Rasamrita Murti. This is the very first words of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now, before someone asks this question, last time I presented this, they asked this question, why do you say dispassion instead of renunciation? This is what we know. Prabhupada would sometimes use these words interchangeably, but renunciation is more like tyaga. We have some renunciation. We have the four regular principles, so many things we have to renounce in Krishna consciousness. But more important for us is vairagya. Vairagya means dispassion or lack of any taste for enjoyment. We're practicing Raganuga Bhakti. We want to try to follow in the footsteps of those who are serving Krishna in a certain mood with great attachment and great eagerness. So that unfortunately that great eagerness and great attachment can also be directed toward matter, as we've experienced. So giving that up, becoming free from that attachment, is called vairagya, which is developed naturally by developing our attachment to Krishna. As the next verse after the one I quoted, Savai Pungsam Parodharma, is Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojitaha Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Gyanam Chayadahoitikam. By engaging in service to Vasudeva or Krishna in the way described before, with uninterrupted and with no material motive, one quickly develops knowledge and detachment or dispassion, jnana and vairagya. And we can see how we're advancing by how much we're getting attracted to Krishna, and also how much we're losing our attraction to material pleasures. So dispassion is of course, Krishna's one of his six opulences, and he showed this by disappearing from the gopis and even leaving Vrindavan, and even when he was married to 16,108 queens, it's described that yes, he acted like a perfect householder. He had 10 sons by each wife, but he was never really controlled by them, although they thought he acted like a henpecked husband, Prabhupada says. So this is one of Krishna's great opulences, and we also need to develop that in our practice of Krishna consciousness toward the material entity, that dispassion. To be the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives a summary explanation of this fourth point. Krishna's Swarup Shakti possesses three divisions: Ladani, Sandani, and Sambit and Sandini. The transcendental loving exchanges created by the Ladani Shakti, of course personified by Srimati Radharani, keep Sri Krishna captivated in bliss. The confidential emotions evoked by the Sambit Shakti cause him to relish ever-fresh loving exchanges. And the spiritual realm of Sri Vrindavan Dham, brilliant and pure, has been manifested by the Sandini Shakti as the arena for his eternal loving pastimes. Thus, in Sri Vrindavan, Sri Krishna remains ever immersed in the eternal nectar of rasa, the pastimes of divine loving mellows. So this is the ultimate goal of our practice, is to revive our original rasa with Krishna, and to be situated there again, never to return, as Krishna promises in the Bhagavad Gita. We won't be so foolish again to turn away from Krishna, and to relish these unlimited varieties of ananda in relation to Krishna in his daily activities in Goloka Vrindavan. So this is a description of Krishna. Now, who are we? That's the next point. Number 5, it looks like, Tad binang shangsha jivan. The living entities are separated, infinitesimal parts of Krishna. At Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Krishna says, Mamai vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Give me 1 second. Sorry for the interruption. They're my eternal fragmental parts, Srila Prabhupada explains. As fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the living entities also have fragmental portions of his qualities, of which independence is one. Every living entity, as an individual soul, has his personal individuality and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul. And by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal, as the Supreme Lord is. So this is a often quoted verse. Srila Prabhupada is, he would often focus on that Sanatana. We are eternally such. We never merge with Krishna. We never become the Supreme. We are always Anksha, which is this infinitesimal part. But as the infinitesimal part, just like the drop of water in the ocean, we have the qualities of Krishna minute degree. And one of those is independence, which means that our love can be expressed. Love must be given independently, but be given willfully. So this is the nature of the soul, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizes this point. Just as many tiny sparks burst out from a blazing fire, so the innumerable jivas are like atomic spiritual particles in the rays of the spiritual sun, Krishna, Sri Krishna. Though these jivas are non-different from Krishna, they are also eternally different from him. The eternal difference between the jiva and Krishna is that Krishna is the Lord and Master of the Maya Shakti, whereas the jiva can fall under the control of Maya, even in his liberated stage, due to his constitutional nature. So that key is that independence. We, as human beings, we can decide to use our independence and to control our senses, draw them away from Maya by engaging them in Krishna's service. And the purification takes place when we start doing that, and eventually we regain our original nature as pure servants of Krishna. So that's the jivas, and it goes on. I'll just liberate this here. Prakriti Kabalitams, which means swallowed up by Prakriti. The conditioned living entities have been swallowed up by Krishna's illusory external energy. These are the conditioned living entities. In his Prema Vivarta too, Jagadananda Pandit graphically describes the fate of the souls in the thrall of Maya. Krishna Bahimukha Hoya Bhoga Banchakari Nikatasta Maya Tare Japati Adhari. As soon as one becomes inimical to Krishna and desires sense gratification, he is immediately struck down by the illusory energy of the Lord. Similarly, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 21:17, Lord Chaitanya declares to Sanatana Goswami, Krishna Buli se jivanadi bahimukha ateva maya tare deha sansar dukkha. Forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the external feature from time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. So notice that in both verses, the word bahimukha is there. Bahimukha literally means turning your face away from Krishna. Or what do we turn to? Toward Maya, toward the material energy. And we become enthralled and under the spell, as Prabhupada would say, under the spell. So these two verses, and one other one that Prabhupada would often quote, the same idea is there. Bhayam dvitiya banaveshataksad ishadapeta sivaparhiyo smriti. These two lines describe how the living entity, who's originally in his spiritual position, free of all anxiety, full of bliss in the spiritual world, when he ishadapetasya is literally bahimukha, turning his face away from Krishna, turning his back on Krishna toward the dvitiya. Dvitiya is the dualities of the material energy, the second energy, besides the internal energy. So that produces great fear. Suddenly we've forgotten our protector, our Lord, our master, the one we love, and we're trying to dominate and enjoy this material energy, being frustrated and at every step. So that is the original cause of the fear. And everything is upside down. Instead of being the servant of Krishna, becomes his competitor. Instead of being eternal, becomes temporary. And so what's the solution? Tanmahiyato, this has all happened by the force of Maya. Buddha abhajetam. One has to be intelligent. One has to be willing to hear this philosophy and then put it into practice. So the intelligent living entity, abhajetam, naturally, systematically, under proper direction, again starts worshiping that Isha, that Lord Krishna. Bhajetam Tanmayata Bhajetam Bhaktyaka Yesham Guru Devatatma, with one pointed devotional service under the instruction of a bona fide guru who he worships as his very self and worshipful Lord. That's a verse in the 11th canto by the 9 Yogendras. Very, very pertinent here. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he summarizes this point as follows. By his original nature, the living entity is an eternal servant of Krishna. Krishna's bewildering energy, Maya, punishes those living entities who give up their service to Krishna and become concerned with their own happiness. She binds them with the ropes of the three modes of material nature, covers them with the gross and subtle bodies, and throws them into the miserable bondage of fruitive work, thus repeatedly causing them to experience happiness and distress in heaven and hell. So this is a very graphic description of our condition in the material world that we're trying to get out of. And then next point is very hopeful, which says, Tad vimuktang stabhavat. So these conditioned souls, is point 6. 7 is some souls are released from the grasp of Krishna's illusory external energy. In the Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha shakpa deham punar janma naiti mameti sojana. If you're interested in memorizing Bhagavad Gita verses, this is probably the second most quoted verse that Srila Prabhupada quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, or even in all of his lectures. And one who knows in truth the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. And later in the Gita, Krishna promises, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishasi satyam te pradijane piyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. This is at the end, near the end of the Gita. So there's hope for us. And that's why there's, Lord Chaitanya came to teach us this means of withdrawing our mind and our senses from matter and placing it on Krishna systematically, chiefly by chanting the holy name. And Bhaktivinoda has a nice summary. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a summary explanation. While wandering among the higher and lower species in the material world, a fortunate conditioned soul may meet a Vaishnava absorbed in the flowing mellows of devotional service and gain a taste for following the Vaishnava way of life. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, the soul gradually becomes free from its conditioning. Step by step, he then realizes its original, constitutional, transcendental form and becomes qualified to taste the pure spiritual mellows of direct service to Sri Krishna. This verse is definitely worth memorizing. I can provide this to you, Ananda Gauranga, you can spread it around. The original text of the Gauranga Lila Smarana Mangala Stotra, which itself is a very wonderful book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizing Lord Chaitanya's Lila. And I actually have a recording of this I can also make available. Okay, on we go. Now, then comes this unique contribution of Lord Chaitanya to Vaishnava philosophy, which is reconciles all the other schools. Veda Veda Prakasham Sakalam Abhihare, this famous Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. All spiritual and material phenomena are simultaneously one with and different from Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:4-5, Krishna says, by me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. So you find many Upanishadic statements that seem to embody this one and different, and kind of a koanic, one hand clapping kind of idea. Apanipado javano grahita. Although he has no hands, he can grasp anything. Although he has no feet, he can run faster than anyone, like that. So this simultaneously one and different is like that. How can something be the same and yet different? But this is Krishna's inconceivable potency. Similarly, in Bhagavatam 2.9.35, Krishna says to Brahma, this is part of the Chaturshloki, Yata mahanti bhutani bhuteshu chabacheshvanu Pravishtanya pravishtani tatateshu nateshvaham. Know that as the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos, so I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time, I am outside of everything. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizes, the entire spiritual and material creation is a transformation of Sri Krishna's energies. The impersonal philosophy of illusion, Vivartavad, is not true. It is an impurity that has been produced by Kali Yuga and is contrary to the teachings of the Vedas. The Vedas support Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, inconceivable oneness and difference, as the pure and absolute doctrine, and one can attain perfect love for the eternal absolute when he accepts this principle. So it's not that part of the absolute truth has become illusion and become the living entity, and when we become realized, we'll merge back in and become the absolute again. This is Vivartavad. We are part of the energies eternally, as explained earlier. We're the marginal energy eternally of Krishna, and our Sarup, our real liberation, is not merging, but it's again regaining our Sarup, as stated in the Bhagavatam, defining mukti, mukti hitpan yata rupam, swarupena vivastiti. Real mukti means to give up all these other forms we've been inhabiting since time immemorial, which aren't us, and to regain our Sarup, our actual form and activities and our special rasa with Krishna. That's actual mukti. And at that point, we won't even care about mukti. We'll be so immersed in rasa. Okay, and then, so all of these, so the first point, remember, is about how we know what we know, epistemology. And then the subsequent 7 points, which we studied: who is the Lord, what is the living entity, and what are the conditions, and also this Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. These all comprise Sambandha Gyan, understanding who is God, who we are, what this world is, and what is the relationship between those three. That's an essential foundation for the practice of devotion, which is point 8 of these 9 subsequent after the Amnaya verse point. So, sadhanam, what is the sadhana that we can realize this sadhya? Sadhanam Shuddha Bhakti is pure devotional service. Pure devotional service to Krishna is the only means of attaining the goal of life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-21, Krishna says, Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya. Only by practicing unalloyed devotional service with full faith in me can one obtain me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna reiterates in the Gita 18:55, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyastasmi tattvataha tatomam tattvato gyatavishade tadanantanam. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Later in the Gita, to 1865, Krishna promises, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyajim nam namaskaru mame vaishya satyam te padijane piyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Whoever coughed just then, please put yourself on mute. Hare Krishna. And this point is summarized by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. One should perform the 9 processes of regulated devotional service, namely hearing of Krishna, chanting about him, remembering him, offering him prayers, worshiping him, serving his lotus feet, acting as his servant, becoming his friend, and fully surrendering to him. One who faithfully practices these processes every day certainly achieves pure love for Krishna. And that's kind of a hint about what point the final point is, as we will see. Sadhyam tat pritamevi. So we have the sadhana, the practice, and the sadhya, which is the goal, is pure love for Krishna. Prema. Prema, pure love for Krishna, is alone the goal of life. So there's a Chaitanya Mandusha, a commentary on the Bhagavatam, declares, Aradho Bhagavan Bhajeshatana Yastad Dhama Vrindavanam. Ramyaka Chudupasana Pradipadu Vargena Yakalpita. Shrimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumarto Mahan. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatradara Naparaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is to be worshipped along with his transcendental abode, Vrindavan. The most pleasing form of worship for the Lord is that performed by the gopis of Vrindavan. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless authority on everything, and pure love of God is the ultimate goal of life for all. These statements, for which we have highest regard, are the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada often quoted this verse. So that's this phrase, Prema Pumarto Mahan, is often quoted alone. And Pum is short for Pungsam, it's human being. Artha is goal, and Maham is great. Prema Pumarto Mahan. It's often called the Panchama Purushartha. Purushartha means a goal for human beings. And these are these common four that I'm sure you're familiar with: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. In the Vedic culture, this is said to be civilized life. If you're practicing Dharma, which usually means Varna Ashram Dharma, and the goal can be for material benefit, for becoming prosperous in this life and going to heaven the next life. Why? So that you can enjoy Kama and sense gratification. Oftentimes in the modern world, people forget all about the Dharma. It's just Artha Kama, just make some money and try to enjoy it, make some money. It's a hellish existence. So someone who's intelligent will realize, oh, this is keeping me bound to birth and death. Let me get mukti. So that's the fourth goal. But even mukti, without trying to get that without bhakti, is futile. And so the Panchama Purushartha, the fifth goal, which is this prema, everything is reconciled there. Your desire to enjoy, which you're being frustrated by exercising your kama, which just produces pain and suffering. That desire to enjoy is completely fulfilled by prema. And as far as your mukti is concerned, that's a byproduct, as Bilvamangal Thakur has famously said in his Krishna Karnamrita. What is that? Bhaktis tvayi stitatada bhagavan yadishat daime nanakpaditi divya kishora murti mukti swayam mukuditanjali sevate sma dharma kama kati yaksamayat patiksha. If one is firmly fixed in pure devotion to you, my Lord, Bhaktis tvayi stitatada, Bhagavan, all Supreme Lord, yadisha, then that will bring about the fruit of that bhakti, which is not mukti, but the Palati Divya Kishora Murti is a vision and an interaction with your divine adolescent form. And as far as mukti is concerned, she's waiting in the corner with Anjali, that like we do Pushpanjali. How can I serve you? And Dharma, Kama, whatever I need in terms of those, they're also waiting in a train. It comes naturally. Bhakti includes all possible valuable things. So I think there's one more here. Yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's summary. The spiritual aspirant then attains his original spiritual form, and the exalted pure love of Madhura Ras arises within him. He bears in his heart the pure love of the intimate associates of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna in Brajabhumi. He becomes full of bliss in that state of pure love, and his happiness exceeds anything in this material universe. He attains the supreme service of Lord Krishna in the Lord's transcendental pastimes. So if you think about it and you study these 10 points, you see that the whole philosophy is there. The theory and the practice and the goal. And I find it very helpful. I'll certainly make this available to Ananda Gauranga. He can spread it far and wide. It's a very nice way of organizing one's understanding of the philosophy. Whatever we read in Srila Prabhupada's books as an expansion of this is a description of one or more of these points. So I find it very helpful to review this every now and then. And about studying the Palashruti of studying. What is this? Benefits of studying. Okay. One who studies and carefully follows this Dashamula casts far away the material disease of ignorance. Then, through the association of saintly devotees, he obtains the soul-nourishing ecstasy of love for Krishna and becomes fully satisfied. Sounds like everything we want. We're almost out of time to our 9:30 point. So if there's any discussion on this, I hope to leave a little time for the Radhikashtaka, the song of the female parrot from the Govinda Lilamrita, which is simply a prayer that Radharani will bestow upon us her service eternally. Ananda, are you there?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So,
Thank you so much, Prabhu. So if we can move along to the Radhikashtaka, that will be great. It'll set us up nicely for tomorrow's.
okay.
Event.
Okay, fine.
And then there's one question. Maybe if there are one or two questions, we can have it after that.
After that, okay. So let's move on to this Radhikashtaka, and there she is, right there. All right, this is very auspicious. And all right. The Shri Shri Radhikashtaka, prayer for the service to Srimati Radharani's lotus feet. Now, I hope you'll forgive me. I haven't included the Sanskrit here, just the English translation. But I'll give you a sample of the Sanskrit. It's very delightful. Many of you may be familiar with a wonderful recording that Bhakti Charu Swami made of this years and years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Very wonderfully sung. And I came across it and I inspired to put it into poetry. So the first verse is this. Kumkamakta kanchanam jagava hari goraba pitanachi tabja ganda kirti nindi soraba ballaveshu suna sava vanchi tarti sarika mayamatma parapadma dasturarika. Her gold complexion steals the pride of gold and lotus tinged with red. Her fragrance mocks the scent of lotus bloom with saffron powder spread. Her skill in satisfying Sri Hari is perfect and complete. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Hare Krishna. There's this Radha here in New Govardhan, San Diego. Her wondrous silken garment shame the splendor rubies can display. She is a blooming garden where the bee of Krishna loves to play. She worships Surya every day so she and Madhava can meet. May Radhika bestow on me the service of the lotus feet. And here's Radharani with the song to the bee. You can't see the bee there, it's this white flower. And this is when Uddhava has visited Vrindavan and he's with the other gopis, and Radharani sees a bee and she thinks it's a messenger from Krishna, and she has a song there called the Brahmara Gita, which is another wonderful aspect of Bhagavatam. Eclipsed by Radha's tenderness, the fame of budding blossoms dims. The moon, the lotus sandal paste, and camphor serve her cooling limbs. When Krishna burns with love's desires, her soothing touch dispels the heat. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. And there's again Radharani here in New Govardhan. Though youthful goddesses adored by all adore the goddess Shri, she lacks Shri Radha's beauty, youth, and every other quality. So when it comes to lovers' sports, with Radha no one can compete. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. This is Radha in Alachua, Radha Shamasundar. Within the rasa dance, her joking and her singing are the best. She shines with countless traits divine, like love and gorgeous form and dress. Among the famous gopis of Vrindavan, she's supremely sweet. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. This is Vrindavan, Radha, Krishna Balaram temple. Eternal pastime, beauty, youth, and love for Krishna make her rich. The loving gopis tremble just to see that love at highest pitch. Her meditation on Sri Krishna's form and pastimes is complete. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Perspiring, trembling hairs on end, and crying, faltering of the voice, impatience, joy, and guile, these signs of rapture make her friends rejoice. For Krishna's eyes, these many gem-like ecstasies provide a treat. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Radha Giridhari here in San Diego. Apart from Krishna for a moment, Radha feels anxiety and restlessness and other moods, the highest kind of ecstasy. But when she meets him with some effort, all her sufferings retreat. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. Exalted goddesses like Parvati can hardly ever see Shri Krishna's lover Radhika, but if a humble devotee recites these verses, then Shri Radha, who enjoys with Shri Hari, will pour the nectar of her service down on him eternally. So, any questions about anything?
Wonderful, wonderful, Prabhu. So we're always grateful. We know from material standpoint, there are great poets. We have had Rudyard Kipling, Mark Twain, T.S. Eliot, etc. And even in our own, parampara, we have Rupa Goswami, the greatest Chitra Kavitwani, and other poems and verses that he penned. But in ISKCON today, the most potent poet we have is you, Prabhu. Translations in this beautiful poetic way for us to easily remember. So we're very, very grateful to you for this, especially one day before Radhastami, when we are able to meditate on this. Thank you so much.
I'll send this to you. Also, we won't have time, but there's Nandan and Ashtaka, the one to Krishna also, praying for service to his lotus feet. And these can be sung every day to the deities. No loss, only gain.
Wonderful, Prabhu. So just before we wrap up, but there's one question. It was actually asked by a 4-year-old to one of our devotees, Mother Srimati. So I'm just going to ask the question on behalf of Mother, on behalf of this boy, actually. Very general question. Why Krishna appears in a dark complexion? So just a very nice question by a 4-year-old boy.
A 4-year-old. That's the kind of question. I mean, Prabhupada said, well, because he likes to. He likes that complexion. It's I don't want to speculate, but the way it's described, there's one verse described, the dark complexion, but it's described like this. How's it go? Yeah. Uradi katamudadi the bangam nabajada dadikidano sadangam hubati badai the mananatadangam pranamati and the tadikatadangam. His flute emanates entrancing sounds for the cowherd girls whose love are bound to the clever cloud complexion Lord who's dancing upon the Kalindi shore. But the part I couldn't fit in the poem was Navajala Dadikidano sadangam. His complexion is like a fresh rain cloud with the sun shining through it from the back. You don't often hear that. He's effulgent, but he has this mysterious, wonderful complexion. I really don't want to speculate on why it's blue. It's like, why is the sky blue? We don't know. But one time Prabhupada said, well, because that reflects Krishna's color. But it's a very wonderful, all attractive color. And it's not, just blackish. It's also effulgent at the same time, if you could imagine. So I'd have to do some research if there's another reason. I'm sorry I can't answer the question.
No problem. Thank you so much, but we're very grateful again for a wonderful session that we've had with you. And it's a double-header, as we said to all the devotees here. We've had 2 classes in succession. So are there any questions from anybody? Maybe we'll give the last word to Om Varma Prabhu. If you have any questions or thoughts, Om Varma Prabhu. If you can unmute yourself, if you'd like to ask His Grace Dravida Prabhu anything or comment. Okay, so
he must be stunned in ecstasy.
He's always grateful to all your poems, Prabhu. So are the other devotees as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Om Varma Prabhu, I see you have unmuted. Last chance.
Prabhu, he has done quite well. Good, it's nice, and I see he has done so much work on the pious things. It's great. We are thankful to him.
Oh, anytime.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
I don't get so many invitations, but I can always count every so often that Ananda will tap me and I can share what I know with the Scarborough devotees.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're praying that, before our next birth, we can also visit there and again.
He's doing so much work to see that Krishna bless him. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada ki.